Welcome to the place. This is the place for intellectual honesty, scriptural honesty, and I'd like to simply have a talk tonight. And we have various things going off at the same time right now, and so what we're going to do is take a break. Let's play a song and get started again. I want to regroup. Just turn on some music, leave the curtain up. Once again, we're back. We had some noise in the background we had to take care of. I would like to spend the next few minutes talking about what the New Covenant Group is and what the place is all about. And we find that it's evolving, and various people have various questions. And tonight, if you would like to get your questions answered concerning the New Covenant Group and also the place, our network, please feel free to call 850-572-7441. I certainly enjoyed Bob Graves, that is his teaching tonight. It was powerful. He's always one who is objective, very critical, and really on target. He seems to be possibly one of the best that is in critical analysis of various things. And he's good at linguistics. He's not just good at linguistics, he's very good in science. He's very good in logic. His rhetoric is excellent. It's in the A+ category. And so the reason that I brag so much about Bob, number one, I love Bob for various reasons. I think that Bob Graves brings to the New Covenant Group, that is to our network, he brings a sense of honesty that I think that we all need. And please don't misunderstand me. I haven't known Bob long. I've never met him in person. We met on Facebook. We've had many conversations on the phone and also through Skype. And we are getting closer and closer, and this is wonderful. And I think this is what we need to be doing, that is, if we really love one another. But I don't want to just talk about Bob Graves, the unconventional pastor, and just brag about him, but I also want to brag about someone else. That would be Greg Bray. Now, Greg Bray, he is an atheist, but let's call him a biologist because that's what he is. He has spent the majority of his life studying science. He is very committed to taking a position. And so here at the New Covenant Group, and I want you to understand the term the name New Covenant Group doesn't stand for, in any sense of the word, some religious label. It doesn't say, hey, we are the New Covenant Group that is of the Bible. That's not what it stands for. It's simply a name that indicates that, yes, this is a group of people who do consider something concerning New Covenant to be important to us. And I will explain that possibly in a few minutes if I have the time. But I want you to understand our heart, our motivation for putting together the New Covenant Group and what our intent is. As I was stating before, I brag much about Bob Graves, the unconventional pastor, but I also brag a lot about Greg Bray, this biologist who is an atheist. And one of the things about the New Covenant Group that everyone needs to understand, We're not bringing in people who have the same ideas that I have. We are bringing people into the context of the New Covenant group that have different ideas. In other words, they are more than capable in science. I'm not good in biology. I know X, Y, and Z about it, but Greg, he is excellent. He's a biologist. And out of respect to him, I have to respect he and others who have spent years in biology. And I thank God for Greg Bray and his honesty and all the questions that he brings. And yes, I do spend much time on the phone and also on Skype with him. We do not censor him in any sense of the word, nor do we censor or tell Bob what to say. Bob is his own person. Greg is his own person, and we applaud that. The same thing is true with William Caicedo Torres. I speak much to him on Skype. We have a wonderful relationship. He is one of these guys who has such a tender heart, and he has a show. It lasts an hour, and he simply speaks in a language that I'm not fluent in. I know about 10, 15, 20% of what he's saying, and that's about it. He's not censored. He's not told what to teach on or who to have as a guest. And so the New Covenant group is much variegated, and people need to understand that, because we want to see actually a place where intellectual honesty is actually practiced. This is not a place of yet, but it's a place for intellectual honesty. I contend that it's going to take us years to get past our baggage. We all carry baggage. We all have problems. We all have things that we have bought into. That's because all of us have various kinds of what we call a meme. That is, we all were influenced by our parents and by our cultures, etc., etc., etc. And so the point for having the New Covenant group is for us to become extremely honest. And in the process of being honest about everything, we are practicing something called respecting one another. I don't think that you can claim that you love someone unless you show them respect. You know, you can say love all the time, but if you don't have any respect for them, if you can't respect their opinions, even though you don't agree with them, I really question whether you love them or not. And so I guess my point is, concerning the New Covenant group, we are not a group of individuals who want to have fixed belief at all. I'm so thankful for so many kinds of people, so many people from various beliefs coming our way. I thought it was wonderful to have Eric Hovind on our show the other day, that is on Inspiring Honesty, and also on the show called The Unconventional Pastor, because it demonstrated that we can take a fundamentalist who is making an argument concerning the existence of God and also a young earth theory. We can have them on our shows and be extremely respectful towards that position or those positions. And so where are we going? We simply want to have a platform where everyone, that is everyone, I don't care whether you're an atheist or a theist, whether you're a theist that's a Gnostic or an agnostic theist, it doesn't matter to us. It doesn't matter whether you're an agnostic atheist or a Gnostic atheist. We really don't care. What we care about is respecting you and hearing from you, because we believe that everyone has a voice. And this is not just for those of us in academics. This is for people who simply have common sense. So many times we have people who have common sense that bless the rest of us. I can give you an example. I had one young man working for me years ago, and he wasn't a young man. He was 3 times my age. And it was back at a time in which we had spent, it was almost $2 million, $1.5 to $2 million on a particular product, and we had engineers on the project. and we were building a particular unit, and this gentleman walked up to me, and I had a lot of confidence in him. He had a third-grade education, could not read, was illiterate, but a genius at this particular thing that we were involved in. And we had 3 engineers on the job. They had designed this particular entity that I'm talking about. And this individual who had no education, in a sense at all, he came up to me and he said, "This isn't going to work." To make a long story short, I said, "Demonstrate that to me," and he did. Simply by just giving measurements on his arm, by simply taking his finger and pointing and trying to make just practical sense. And I said, okay, let me share that with our engineers, because if we had to start all over again, it was going to cost us something like $3 to $4 million. That was completely out of budget. And so to cut to the chase, I approached the engineers, and the engineers simply laughed because I could not efficiently describe what was wrong. And I called this person who worked for me. I called him over into the conversation. I said, please, in your own language, the way that you put things, I want you to tell these people, these engineers, why you think this will not work. And within 15 minutes, he did a superb job. And this is why we applaud people who are just people with common sense, people who have not gone through universities, but they've gone through the school of hard knocks, if you will, and they've learned various things. In fact, we want to have all kinds of people like that on our shows. They have a lot to offer to the conversation. But in this instance, this gentleman with a third-grade education convinced the engineers that the engineers had made not just a small mistake, but a huge mistake, and in doing so saved us millions of dollars. And I'm so thankful that he was willing to step up to the plate and offer what he thought to be true. And this really helped me to understand something in life. I had the wonderful experience, and I think I've shared this before, but I will share it again. I had the wonderful experience years ago in talking with some professional fishermen, that is, people who fish for bass. I love bass tournaments, and I love those people who love to go to get involved in that sport, to say the least. And I became quite good at certain styles of bass fishing. And so I was looking to become better. And so I would always hang out with the pros, and I was hanging out with one of the pros one day, and he started explaining to me what took place one day, because I had asked him the question, when you came to this tournament, are you looking to talk to the local pros? Because he was a major pro in the circuit. I said, are you looking to talk to the pros? He said, not at all. He said, I learned something years ago. And he shared with me this story. And it was about how he found a young kid actually fishing there on the bank. And he was looking and observing how every time that the kid would throw out whatever he was throwing out, he would catch a bass. And so he walked a little bit closer, and he noticed that the young man had plastic worms, and he was taking the hook and he was hooking the worm in the wrong spot. In other words, I know what a Carolina rig is and a Texas rig, but I didn't know anything about the kind of rigging that this young kid was talking about, nor did that pro fisherman. And so he simply observed the kid, and he kept catching bass after bass after bass, and he was hooking it wrong. And so the pro, he asked him, he said, now show me again how you're hooking this. And he said, sir, I'm simply hooking it in the middle. And so the pro didn't say anything. And so the young man threw out the worm again. It was a plastic worm, and another bass hit. And so the professional guy, he simply said, let me try that. And so he did the same thing and started catching bass almost on every cast. And so what this developed into, to make a long story short, this professional fisherman finally developed this into a technique. It's called wacky worming. And that means that you hook the plastic worm in the middle, and it gives the plastic worm the appearance of a wounded worm. And those who study how bass, that is the largemouth bass, strikes, if you put a wounded worm next to one is a worm that is healthy, you're going to find that largemouth bass will go after the wounded worm. And so this is something that a professional fisherman learned from a little kid standing on the bank. I'm simply saying that sometimes we can learn from everyone. And this meant a lot to me. And so I've given you 2 examples of how something like this has really impressed me. And so in the academic sense, I love learning. I love being academic about many things. And we do have many academic conversations on all of our shows. And yet at the same time, we're not just interested in academic talk. We're interested in common, ordinary talk, something where the rubber meets the road for all of the people. Most of the talk that we do in linguistics, for instance, if you hit 1 or 2% of the people, you're lucky. And I would doubt that that percentage is that high. My point is, the New Covenant group is designed to actually be a group of people who can bless everyone. And we can't do so by simply saying, Dr. Jones has all the truth. I don't claim to know all truth. But my wife and I have chosen to do everything that we can to include people from other disciplines or same disciplines to get their reactions, to get their comments, their ideas concerning theology, concerning biology, concerning the ideas of theism and atheism, and everything that really matters in life. This is why I applaud my wife's show so much. They talk about practical things all the time. It's wonderful. And we have all kinds of various guests who do come our way who are not in total agreement with what I say or what Bob says or what Greg says. It's simply about learning how to have respect for one another so we can have a wonderful and a meaningful conversation. And so I simply wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about this. And if any of you guys have any questions concerning what I've said thus far, I wish you would phone or text in. That would be to 850-572-7441. Now, I want to talk about something else besides that particular matter, because I think that lots of people are really becoming disturbed about lots of content that we keep putting out. For instance, and I'm not going to state the name, but comments like this are being made. Anyone can prepare and write a script. Even actors work from a script. But in this instance, Paul was referring to the writings of the Old Testament. I'd simply asked a question concerning what is Holy Scripture, that is, in a certain passage. The person goes on, and he says, these things are God-breathed and God-inspired. And the concept of an abjad. Now, I want you to listen to this. This person admits that they have no ability in Greek or Hebrew. They don't know the languages, but they have the idea that the concept of an abjad is a red herring. And so my question would be, if you don't know what an abjad actually is because you don't know the language and you don't know linguistics, why would you call something a red herring? And I'm going to prove a point, possibly, or make a point, better stated, make a point with this particular read. The concept of an abjad is a red herring and cuts no ice for those who are grounded in their faith. Now, many of you guys have heard me make various arguments concerning an abjad. An abjad simply is a writing system That is, it's the old covenant writing system where we have only consonants, no vowels, and this was of intention. These people did not add vowel structure. And one of the shows that we're going to do here in a few days is to demonstrate that even within the Masoretic text itself, it can be read in various categories and have various meanings. That's within one pointed text system. There are at least 4 different pointed text systems that have been developed over the years, and out of all 4 systems, there are no agreements. In fact, the Jews are heavily divided. This is a very complex issue, but the Jews do not have consensus when it comes to vowel pointings at all. You have very, very, very strong arguments for at least 7 different models of pointing the text, that is, to give vowel structure, because without vowel structure, you have no meaning at all to any of the terms. This can be proven throughout history. We have many people, even the Protestant John Owen. He made many. John Owens was a wonderful theologian. He was a very good linguist. And he made the statement, if you have no vowels, there is no intelligible manner in which you can even learn the language, much less understand it. And so if this person had just done a little bit of reading, he would understand that no one agrees that we do have comprehension of what we call this particular writing system called an abjad. Another point is when you deal with the tetragrammaton, the reason that we say Yahweh or Yahweh or various other renderings of it, the Jews were very superstitious, not because they were superstitious of actually saying the name that is ascribed to God, God's personal name, as some believe. They were superstitious simply because they were not confident, that is, of vowel structure. They were not confident that they could adequately say his name. And so it was out of superstition, and yet it was out of respect. They didn't have any idea. So when it came to calling him Yahweh, Yahweh, or using different vowel structures to even arrange it in various ways, they were not confident. And so you have some who would argue that it's better to simply go Yah, and others, and I'm not going to get into a long discussion on this. I'm simply going to say that even with that one word alone, there are so many variants, and this is why people have gotten into cognate forms and use terms like Jehovah, etc. Now, let me continue to read this. He said, to be fair to Paul in his second letter to Timothy, we have to take into the context the flow and the tide of the whole letter. Obviously, chapter and verse was not included in Paul's original script. So the latter part of chapter 3 has to be taken in context with the earlier part of the text, which states, but mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power, have nothing to do with such people. I want you to listen to how this is worded. Have nothing to do with such people. They are the kind who worm their way into homes and gain control over gullible women who are loaded down with sins and are swayed by all kinds of evil desires, always learning but never able to come to a knowledgeable or to a knowledge of the truth. Now you would think that this person is simply quoting a passage of Scripture, but that's not true. This person actually quotes this passage of Scripture to indicate that Paul talked about a form of godliness but denying its power. And this person goes on to say, and this is concerning what Bob Graves has been stating and what I've been stating concerning the atonement and the substitutionary death of Jesus Christ. We don't believe in the substitutionary death of Jesus Christ, nor do we believe in the atoning work, that is, in a literal sense. And I hope you heard what Bob stated in the prior show. Now listen to how this person is speaking. Paul talked about a form of godliness, but denying its power, which I believe are those who deny the substitutionary and atoning work of the cross of Christ. The person continues, and the verbiage here is to encourage the administrator of the group to actually excommunicate, if you will, people like me, and also people like Bob. So, is this coming from a fundamentalist? No, this is coming from someone who believes in universal reconciliation. And so I think that the New Covenant group is here to challenge not just the fundamentalist, but also the universalists to be honest about the text. Because any time that Bob gets into a context of talking about the text itself and what it is and what it isn't. For instance, when he asks for, dealing with the idea of indexicality, most people don't even know what that is. When he asks for the detic elements, and when I ask for syntagmatic and paradigmatic analysis and things of that nature in order to rightly understand a context or two, these people don't even know what's going on because they don't know the text. So what they're doing is they're actually taking and saying, we have the Bible, we have the Holy Scriptures. Now let me state this clearly as a linguist. What you find in your Bible bookstores, and I'm going to state this clearly and slowly, what you find in your Bible bookstores is extra biblical. What I mean by that, the translation models that you find in your Bible bookstores are extra biblical because they are based upon synthetic models of translation theory that have been proven to be failed even by the fundamentalist. Dr. Hal Harris, he has made many comments concerning this. He comes from Dallas Theological Seminaries. He stated any work prior to the beginnings of the last century is nothing more than just, it doesn't even need to be used for anything more than a doorstop, because these people have realized that after all of the thousands and thousands of manuscripts that have been put into our hands, I'm not just talking about ones of the Scripture, but also extra biblical manuscripts, which we can see from this. We can see how syntax is framed. We can see how meaning is determined from all of these various things by doing something called a reconstruction process. Now, Bob Graves is very well versed in this, and he knows, and all linguists know, that this process of reconstructing the Greek text alone is less than 10% complete. Let me state that again. The reconstruction of the Greek text is less than 10% complete. That is, in dealing with something that we can adequately even call even remotely close to being accurate. The rest of it is simply lots and lots of hyperbole, and what we have done over the years is simply to drag all of those doctrines that come from Augustine and others right into the text, not because it actually is a legitimate read concerning the Apostle Paul or any of the other writers of the New Testament or the Old Testament. We're simply dragging theological baggage, that is extra biblical literature, into something called a Bible, and it's really not part of the Bible if you're going to say this is part of the manuscripts of the Bible. And so please understand that when people say Holy Scriptures and they're talking about these extant translations that we do have that we can pick up at each Bible bookstore on almost every corner, please understand those are just as much extra biblical as anything else. So what is my point? My point is, I think that people are not willing to be honest. I think people are more willing to be mean-spirited. They're more willing to be mean-spirited and put down people simply because they want to have a belief system. They want to push everyone else away and say, we've got the truth. The difference between the New Covenant group and other groups is this, and it should be a plus point for you. I'm not trying to encourage anyone to believe me. I'm not trying to encourage anyone to believe Bob. I'm not trying to encourage anyone to believe Greg. I'm not trying to encourage anyone to believe Daryl Furlow or William Caicedo Torres or my wife or anyone else. That's not what we're encouraging. We're simply encouraging a platform where all kinds of people in an academic world and also in the non-academic world, we're encouraging a conversation that can rationally go on where people can respect one another without actually saying, I don't want to have anything to do with you. Why? Because they are the kind who worm their way into homes and gain control over gullible women who are loaded down with sins and swayed by all kinds of evil desires, always learning but never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Paul talked about a form of godliness but denying its power, which I believe are those who deny the substitutionary and atoning work of the cross of Christ. My point is, I don't care if you do believe in the atonement of Christ. I don't care if you think that the substitutionary death of Christ is actually true. My point is, let's be nice, let's be kind, let's be respectful. You can come on our shows and you can state your opinions concerning what you think to be true, and you're not going to be put down, but you're going to be loved. That's what the New Covenant group is about. The New Covenant group is about loving people with various ideas concerning God. Now, how you arrived at that may be questioned, and we're not here to have a fussing match. That's why we have done everything that we can to demonstrate what good academic argument is all about. It's not about a fussing match, but it's about logical rhetoric. It's about trying to get on the same page quickly and make points. It's about looking at the same evidence and coming to better conclusions. This is why medical science is soaring and becoming so good. This is why we have so many wonderful technologies today. It's because people are thinking, get together, they are getting together, they're debating in a very wonderful world. That is, when chemists get together and they debate things out and they go to the marker boards and they put the formulas together, they do this in a sensible way. They do this with peer review, etc., etc. And this is what the New Covenant group is about. And so, if you have a problem with being objective, and if you have a problem with actually people being respectful and kind of for everyone, and I simply read this article that was stated about us. I read it to demonstrate something. If you're going to state something about us, I don't mind reading what you've stated. There have been many incendiary remarks made toward us lately, and we're more than willing to address any of the points. But please understand, we are not here to defend God or defend the faith. We are here to be honest. We're going to be honest about our shortcomings. We're not perfect people. We're imperfect people. We've made mistakes. We have mistakes in our past, but we've also accomplished some wonderful things. The same thing can be stated about you. And I'm so thankful that we are, as a people all over the world, actually moving forward. But the New Covenant group is a group that simply wants to work together to try to accelerate that. Why? Because people are starving to death. And many children tonight, many adults tonight will die, and that concerns us. How can we stop hunger? We're going to stop hunger when we have mathematicians coming along, when we have economists coming along, when we have biologists coming along, when we have various disciplines coming along, rethinking how things are done and developing a better philosophy that's not just so local, but it becomes global. And when you have people, educated people from various places all over the world coming together, rethinking things, we can rise above our governments, rise above our structures, and start doing something efficaciously concerning the ones who are starving to death tonight. And I'm simply asking you to become a part of the New Covenant group. In what sense? Don't trust me just because I said something. Simply listen to me. Simply listen to other people and listen to yourself. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with other people and understand this is about a process. This is not about us trying to convert anyone. I don't want to try to convert you. My wife doesn't want to convert you. None of the people here that I know of in the New Covenant group want to convert anyone. We simply want to have an honest conversation, and if information does affect you in a way that causes your belief system to change, so be it. If not, that's fine. But let's be kind, let's be nice, and let's learn how to conduct ourselves in a proper way that works better, not just in one field, but in multiple fields. This is why I keep trying to get people to commit. I'd like to see more people committed to medical science. Why? Because I want more physicians who know what they're talking about. We have a sick world, and we need those physicians. We need more farmers who are committed to knowing how to grow crops efficiently. Because if we had the right food products that we can actually eat, we become healthier people. It's not just about starving issues that we need to be concerned with. We need to talk about health issues because we can prevent ourselves from being unhealthy. That is, by eating properly. We need all kinds of disciplines being practiced honestly. This is what the New Covenant group is about. It's about all disciplines, not one discipline. It's not just about theology. It's about atheism and theism and all kinds of other ideas, all packaged in one. So please, for the sake of sanity, don't reduce us to the dot of theism. We aren't like that. We are simply people who enjoy various things, and we enjoy the variety, and we like the much variegated approach towards all things. And we enjoy the fact that we have so many people who are so wonderful coming our way. And so please allow yourself enough room to rethink your position so you can enjoy being comforted by some of the things that might be stated from time to time. If you do have concerns about any of the things that I say or any of the other persons with the New Covenant group, please simply give us a call, text me, do whatever you can. We're having a wonderful time. Wonderful time. We have awesome goals. And actually, that was a comment. I'm reading some of the comments. Wonderful to hear, Dr. Jones. We can all learn from each other is another comment. Another comment is awesome goal. Well, I do appreciate some of the comments that are coming in. Let me tell you something. The comments and all the conversations that I've had with Bob Graves, wow. I want everyone to be able to hear his heart and what's coming out of that mind of his. It's wonderful. The conversations that I've had with Greg Bray, this guy is awesome. He is not, he's a genius. And he is so kind and tender. So many times when we're in a production meeting or maybe we're just talking one-on-one, he has his son in his lap or maybe a dog. He is just a wonderful person. I want theists to learn that atheists don't have horns. They're not carrying a pitchfork, and they don't have a little red suit on. Atheists are people. Theists are people. Muslims are people. Protestants are people. We have people everywhere, and what we need to do is to quit fighting. We need to start thinking. In other words, if we would spend more money on trying to make peace than trying to do war, we might get somewhere. And so let's take this warring attitude out of our mindset, out of our philosophy. We don't need to war with words. What we need to do is we need to learn how to respectfully have a good conversation. And I will say, I need to plug a lot of the people on our wall. My lands, we've had some wonderful atheists who have been making powerful comments. For instance, a guy by the name of Troy has been making some wonderful comments. Such a respectful young man. I would encourage everyone to read what he's writing. He is a brilliant young man. Another guy by the name of Flores, I believe. I think he's a cousin of Herbie Del Toro. Herbie is an awesome guy. We love Herbie. But his cousin, wow, making fantastic arguments. And Jim Mufo, he just caught me off guard. The last comment that I saw him make, I just started crying, and it was about why Jesus actually came. Now, Jim Mufo, and I hope I'm enunciating his last name properly, but he's a roofer. And that's special to me because he's just so authentic with what he's saying. He started talking about Jesus. He didn't come to become this human sacrifice, but he came to show us how to love. He laid down his life to show us how to love. And after he made that statement, he said, I want to be able to love like Jesus loved. I just had to cry. And I keep telling people, if you're a roofer, if you're a plumber, I'd love to hear what you have to say. I don't care whether you're an atheist or a theist. I think that you have something good to offer. And so I'm all ears, and hopefully we won't practice that alligator mindset in our discussions where we become all mouth and no ears. We need to learn how to be kind and patient and just love one another and have wonderful conversations. This is why we have civilization today. It's because people learn how to speak to each other. And I'd like to thank you for your time. I think that would be the end of the comments. No, I've got a few more coming in. It says, wonderful message. Thank you. Another one says, thanks for the encouragement. Well, I tell you what, you guys mean so much to me, and there have been some negative remarks concerning us here lately, and I'll be honest with you. When people want to say unkind things to us, it hurts. And we don't know how to react to it. We were told by some people the other day, you need to fight fire with fire, and I said, no way. I say the way that we fight fire is with water. We're going to fight all kinds of people making accusations against us with lots of love. We love people. And we're going to prove it to you. We don't mind doing that. So if you've got a problem with us, hopefully you can get over it. Forgive us or whatever. We certainly do love you guys. I want you to support the New Covenant group. Why? I think it's rational. I think the New Covenant group is powerful. It's not just about me. It's about everybody. It's about everybody having a voice. It's about everybody learning how to respect each other and learning how to have an ear. You know, developing an ear. You know, learning the discipline of listening to each other is so, so empowering. We can learn so much. I've learned so much from Greg Bray. Wow, he's taught me a lot. I love listening to that young man. I can't imagine what he's going to become. He's going to become a superstar, in my opinion. He's just that wonderful. That's awesome. And I hope that I can do everything. My wife and I want to do everything that we can to make sure that he keeps rising up, because this is how we look at people. We want to put you above us. We don't want to become the celebrity. We want you guys to be the ones that are lifted up and can see and enjoy life. Life's been hard. Some of you guys have been going through hell. You've been condemned. You've been bashed. You've been in churches to where they would condemn you. You don't need that anymore. Leave it. Get involved with people who love you and care for you. People who can actually use just common speech with you, and yet at the same time that can do academic things with you that would really, take you from where you are and teach you something. Don't be afraid to learn. Don't be afraid of the terms. In other words, sometimes we're afraid of that which we don't understand. Just listen to Greg Bray. Some of the terms may be difficult, but after a short period of time, you'll pick up on them, and then they will just mean so much. Biology is so fascinating. It's so wonderful. Listen to Bob, the way that he speaks from his heart. Listen to William. He's awesome. Listen to Pastor Furlow also. Listen to Stephen Michael. And I'd like to encourage you guys to listen to Joey and Matt. They have a wonderful show. And so I hope that tonight has been somewhat of a benefit to you. We love you guys so much. And please be patient with us. We're going to make mistakes. And we're going to need a lot of people being kind to us, being patient with us, working with us. And we need people who are willing to bleed with us. What do I mean by that? When we start working and getting together, coming together, and bringing everybody together, it takes a lot of time, effort, and money. And sometimes it just takes commitments that we need to make toward each other, and simply saying, like, Joey does to me sometimes. He'll come up to me and say, Dad, we're just going to do it anyway. We can't afford it, but we're going to do it anyway. Just jumping in with both feet. I'm going to end with this. When I ask people to make a commitment to the New Covenant group, what I mean by that is I want people to commit themselves. Bob Graves is a good example. He has committed himself to learning. The same thing is true with Greg Bray. He committed himself to become a biologist, and now he's a biologist. The New Covenant group is about trying to get people to make commitments. We need people who will commit themselves to being medical doctors, and that means that you can't sit around reading the Bible all the time. You need to be reading medical books. You need to be listening to professors. You need to be engaged in the real conversation on a very scholastic level. You need to commit yourself to that, because if you commit yourself to becoming a medical doctor, you can save lives, and we need that. We need astronauts. We need pilots. We need farmers. We need these people who are committed. And this is what we talk about here at the New Covenant group. Committing yourself doesn't mean committing yourself to us. It means to committing yourself to something. I find so many people in life that are not committed to anything, and they're so miserable. But people who commit themselves, this is what Jesus was talking about. Pick up your cross and follow me. What do you mean? Commit yourself to something. Be the best farmer that you can be. Be the best physician you can be. Be the best plumber you can be. Be the best roofer you can be. Commit yourself to something and enjoy life abundantly. Thank you for your time.